Righto, here's the blunt truth. Bad questions make bad investigations. Not average investigations, not slightly wonky investigations, bad ones. If the first question out of your mouth is, "Who stuffed this up?" well, congratulations. You've already shrunk the whole event down to a person-shaped problem. And once you do that, you start collecting person-shaped evidence, believing person-shaped stories, and missing the system-shaped mess sitting right in front of you. That's the thing people forget. Questions are not neutral. They steer the hunt. They decide what evidence gets gathered, what gets ignored, and what ends up sounding true in the final report. Ask, why didn't he follow the procedure? And everyone starts circling the worker. Ask, how was the work actually being done? And what conditions were there at the time? Now you're in business. Different question, different investigation, different outcome. In good investigation work, especially with ICAM, we're trying to answer two very different things. First, what happened? Then, why did it happen? And those are not the same question, no matter how many times some manager wants to merge them into a one-liner before smoko. Data gathering sets the foundation. If that foundation is crook, analysis is crook, recommendations are crook, and 6 months later, everyone's shocked when the same sort of event turns up again wearing a different hard hat. I've seen it plenty. One job, a vehicle rollover. Early noise was, driver was speeding. Lovely, neat, easy, fits on a poster. But when you ask better questions, you find wet road conditions, poor communication about road alerts, weak journey management, missing risk assessment, previous rollover learnings not properly followed up, and a detection system that wasn't giving active feedback. Suddenly it's not just Barry with a heavy foot, is it? It's a system with holes in it big enough to drive a ute through. Which, funnily enough, someone did. That's why structured methods matter. ICAM gives you a disciplined way to keep asking beyond the obvious. People, environment, equipment, procedures, organization. PEOPO. It stops you wandering off into gossip, blame, and corporate interpretive dance. And for lower-level events, 5 whys can be useful too, if you use it properly. Not like a toddler asking why until an adult gives up and says, "Because I said so." I mean asking why in a way that drives toward conditions, events, and organizational factors. The SafetyWise material says it pretty clearly in its own way. Ask the broad questions: who, what, when, where, why, how, and then often the follow-up is, if not, why not? That little follow-up question is gold. Was there a risk assessment? If not, why not? Was the procedure used? If not, why not? Was the control effective? If not, why not? That's where the learning lives. So if you lead investigations, or you commission them, or you read the reports and pretend to understand the causal chart, start here. Improve the questions. Because better questions don't just get better answers, they uncover the system factors sitting underneath the nice, lazy phrase I've spent half my career trying to kill off: operator error. Now, what should investigators actually ask? Start broad, dead simple. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Old school, sure, but still useful if you don't mangle them. Who was involved? What work was being done? When did key events happen? Where exactly did control get lost? How was the task meant to be done? How was it actually being done? That last one matters more than people realize. Work as imagined and work as done are often distant cousins who don't speak much. And before you get too fancy in interviews, let the witness talk. Free recall first. Tell me in your own words what you remember. Then shut up. I know. For some investigators, that's the hardest competency of the lot. But free recall gives you the witness's sequence, not yours. Then move into open-ended questions. What happened next? What can you tell me about the task? How did the team communicate? What was your workload like? Open questions get detail. Closed questions are for clarifying detail later. Leading questions are like hot sauce. Tiny amounts, carefully used, and most people overdo it. While they're talking, use active listening. Eye contact where appropriate. Don't interrupt. Give them space. Show you're following. Then paraphrase. So what you're saying is, that's not fluffy communication training nonsense. It's how you test whether you've actually understood what they meant. Human memory is fallible. People misremember, fill gaps, rationalize, get distracted, get contaminated by other conversations. Your job isn't to diagnose them. Your job is to gather accurate, relevant information as best you can. And this is where PEPO earns its keep. If your questions don't cover people, environment, equipment, procedures, and organization, you're leaving blind spots all over the place. People. Training, experience, fatigue, supervision, communication, teamwork. Environment. Lighting, weather, noise, layout, surface conditions, access. Equipment. Design, condition, inspection, maintenance, modifications. Procedures. Availability, suitability, clarity, whether they were used, whether they actually match the work. Organization. Planning, resourcing, culture, feedback loops, contractor management, previous incidents, management of change. That's your roadmap. Take a simple example. A grader nearly reverses into workers on foot. The useless question is, why were the workers standing there? The better set is, who knew the work scope had changed? What communication existed between operator and workers? Was there a spotter? Were exclusion zones marked? Was a risk assessment done for the changed task? Were procedures for mobile plant and workers on foot actually applied? What supervision was in place? Now you're not just interviewing people, you're scanning the system. Same with that cable misidentification case from the training material. You could lazily ask, who put the wrong cable in the wrong spot? Or you could ask about drawings, labels, scope of work, testing requirements, quality assurance, contract arrangements, time pressure, planning, and how changes were managed. Funny how the second set leads to learning and the first set leads to a witch hunt. So here's the sequence. Prepare properly. Start broad. Use free recall. Ask open-ended questions. Listen actively. Paraphrase to confirm. Then use closed questions to pin down specifics. And all the while, keep checking your coverage against PEPO. If one whole column is empty, chances are your investigation brain has wandered off without you. Alright, let's talk about the questions that absolutely torch an investigation. Leading questions, loaded questions, blame-soaked questions, the classics. You knew the rule, didn't you? Why were you careless? Don't you agree the procedure was inadequate? He always took shortcuts, yeah? These sorts of questions don't gather evidence, they contaminate it. They steer memory, trigger defensiveness, and tell the witness what answer you're already hoping for. Which, by the way, is a terrific way to produce a rubbish report with very confident formatting. Loaded language is just as bad. Words like careless, reckless, dangerous. Unless you're dealing with a separate accountability process later on, they've got no business leading your fact-finding. Investigation is about understanding, not diagnosing character. If someone's recollection is already affected by stress, elapsed time, personality, collaboration, trauma, or plain old memory limits, the last thing they need is you barging in with courtroom energy and a hero complex. The shift we want is this. Move from what did they do wrong to why did the system allow that to happen? Not as a slogan, as a habit. If a worker didn't follow a procedure, ask what procedure existed, whether it was available, suitable, current, validated, understood, and realistic for the task. If a driver exceeded speed, ask what conditions were present, what feedback systems were in place, what alerts were communicated, what previous events had shown, and whether violations had become tolerated. If there was no risk assessment, ask why that was normalized. That's where system learning starts. I'll give you another one. In a level crossing case, the lazy story was basically, truck driver ran the lights. Nice and dramatic. But better questioning dug into sun glare, road geometry, trees masking the line, induction loop position, train speed, remote control operation from the footwell, previous near misses, and management responses to those warning signs. Same event, entirely different understanding. That's the cost of asking shallow questions. You end up fixing the headline and ignoring the mechanism. So, practical habits. First, prepare. Don't rock up and improvise because you watched half a crime show once. Know the task, the scope, the scene, the likely data sources. Second, listen properly. Not waiting for your turn listening, actual listening. Third, keep your language neutral. Fourth, use structured methods. PIPO, timelines, ICAM, 5 whys where appropriate. Fifth, keep asking until the answer is useful. Not interesting, useful. Useful means it helps explain the event and points toward risk reduction. And for leaders reading reports, or pretending to on the train home, judge the quality of the investigation by the quality of the questions underneath it. Did it explore people, environment, equipment, procedures, organization? Did it separate fact from assumption? Did it move beyond the sharp end? Or did it just dress up blame in corporate fonts?
That's Cam's corner for this one. Ask better questions, get better learning, build better systems. Dead simple. We'll keep poking at the blind spots next time.